Yay, hi, Mafa's here.
Hello, Mafa's here.
I'll take notes during it.
Okay.
This will probably be posted on like the Mafa blog after each roundtable. Just post like the notes and stuff for people to read.
Okay.
Billy, can you try hi, Mafa, or raising your hand to see if the thing works?
I haven't seen this feature yet.
Oh, why do I get back to the...
Is it the reactions?
It's
not no, so if you go to participants, if you press participants.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I can explain that. Okay, cool.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it works. Yes,
okay,
I can see it.
Okay, sounds good.
Then I can lower your hand.
Okay.
I wonder if it tells you order. Can you both raise your hands maybe and see if it tells me like who raised their hand first? Okay, it doesn't. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just, yeah.
I feel like if they have any like really burning questions or comments, they can also put it in the chat.
Yeah.
I wish they had like a snaps reaction instead of just clapping and thumbs up.
Oh, that'd be great.
Hello.
Hello.
Matt.
Hi, Christian.
Hi, Matt. What? So the meeting's gonna start at 8 or just like a little after 8? Or?
We'll probably wait like a couple minutes for people to trickle in.
Okay, bet.
Because Papa's already coming.
Hi, Gigi.
Hi, Gigi.
Oh. Christian, is BSO doing anything like virtually? Are you guys just?
What do you mean? Or like any like meetings wise or?
Yeah, you guys have having like, I don't know, GBMs online or something. I like it. I like it.
Oh my gosh, no. I don't.
Hi, Mark.
I just still into that, but.
Oh my gosh, your hair.
What? Thank you.
Marian's hair.
Oh, stop. I know I look at it.
Wasn't that for one of the Ma family's birthdays?
Okay, it was I funny, and I was like, no one's gonna see me in quarantine. And then I'm so glad I got this now.
Hi, John.
This,
I was like, it looks way better now. I think you got the dial down.
I know. Thank you, Maddie. Was way worse before.
Oh. Kayla, the thumbnail for the live stream is me putting food in my mouth.
Oh no.
It's okay. It's good. I'll take it. I'll take it. Hi, Kevin.
Is that Daniel?
Who's that?
What was that?
No, it looks gross.
Is that your avocado hoodie, Maddie?
Yes.
I'm also wearing mine. Reppin'. This is not sponsored.
Sad, because then they came out with another hoodie that looks exactly like this, but in lavender. And I was like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Their new collections, they just keep getting cooler. I'm literally like, oh my God. So, yeah. Oh no. Which collection did you get? That one's so nice. Oh my God.
Did you get the lavender one? Oh, I got the lavender crew neck.
Elvin and Arvin, such nice people.
I really like their Sun and Moon one too that came out.
So pretty.
Yeah.
Meeting has been upgraded.
So like
Hello.
Hey, nice.
Hi, Nai. Gracie.
To who?
I was gonna say what he calls everyone odding.
Yeah, I was like, who's this adding? Tell him to hop onto the call.
So like,
Yes.
What do you mean?
What?
We'll get started in a couple minutes. Just hang tight.
Cool.
Sure, we can do that. I'll start off. Hi, I'm Matt. I go to UW-Madison. I'm a junior, and I'll be co-facilitating this with Millie today.
Hi, I'm Millie. I'm from UW-Milwaukee. I have been president this past year, and I'll be co-facilitating this roundtable with Matt. Does anybody else want to do an introduction? I'm gonna popcorn to Marianne.
Hello, my name's Marian. I go to St. Louis University and I'm a senior. I'm also the Mafa events coordinator. Thanks, Millie and Matt, for co-facilitating this. And then popcorn to Gracie.
Hi, I'm Gracie. I go to University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm a sophomore. Was there something else? I think that covered it. Popcorn Jocelyn.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn. I also go to UW-Madison, and I was fundraising chair, and I'm a senior. Popcorn Raphie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Raphie. I'm an alumna something of UW-Madison. I'm also an alumna of the Mafa board, so good to see everyone here and so excited.
Mhm.
Oh, popcorn, Christian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I go to Marquette University, and I'm a junior. And yeah, I'm making beef steak right now. That's a fun fact. So I'm really listening and making food at the same time. Popcorn,
Christian.
Kevin Adams.
Oh, sorry. My it wasn't working for some reason. I'm Kevin Adams. I'm a freshman at Iowa State University, and I'm here because my friend Matt invited me, and yeah. Popcorn to my brother Kyle.
Hi, what's up, guys? I'm Kyle Adams. I'm a freshman at Bradley University. I'm also here because of Matt. He invited me as well. I ate popcorn. Kyle Camara.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kyle Camara. I go to IPOI, and I'm a freshman. I'm eating spare ribs right now. I popcorn. Tornell Noel.
I don't think he's connected yet. It looks like he's still connecting.
Okay. I popcorn to Kale.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm the Secretary of Cultural Affairs for Mafa, and I'm currently a senior at UW Milwaukee. And I'll be taking notes from the roundtable, and these will be posted on the wearemafa.org blog if anyone wants to look back or share the roundtable.
Okay. I'll go. It's okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nye. I am Mafa president. I am a graduate of Eastern Michigan University, also serving as Kappa Amelia Club's culture chair this year. I'm very excited for this talk. I'm excited to be here. I have some Olga's Snackers next to me, so that's what I'm eating for dinner.
Cool. I think John, is the last one. If he wants to popcorn. John, are you there? Okay, that's okay. He's a friend of mine as well, and he goes to NIU. And so, great. Thanks, everyone, for introducing themselves. And now we can just go into a little bit of how this is going to work and a little kind of a group rules kind of thing. So if you, first of all, if any point you want to chime in, say anything, feel free to raise your hand, and you can do that by pressing the participants a little button at the lower part if you're on a computer. I'm not really sure where it shows up on a phone, but if you click on participants, and then there should be a raise your hand button, and I'll be able to see who is doing it. And I think Millie's doing it right now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but she is. And I'm going to lower that. Thank you. And so then, yeah, feel free to do that at any point. And if I end up don't seeing it, like, don't be afraid to say something in the chat. Okay, cool. And if Millie, you want to go through the group rules?
The group rules? Okay, so our number one rule for this roundtable is to take space and make space. We want to make this kind of like a safe space for everybody to kind of talk about what's on your mind with everything that's going on. We wanted to do this roundtable to kind of give us as Asian Americans and as college students a space to talk freely about what's going on, how we're handling the changes that we're seeing right now. So make sure that if you're speaking, this is going to be, we're not, no one's here to judge you or anything. Please feel free to kind of just go ahead and express yourself. At the same time, remember there's, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 15 of us here. So we want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity to talk because we have about an hour for this roundtable. And then again, to reiterate, everyone's muted right now. And so then if you guys have anything to chime in, feel free to raise your hand. If you have something urgent that you want to say, like in case we move on to another topic, send it in the chat so then we can see it as well, or like unmute yourself and then you can just say that you have something that you want to add real quick. And then do you want to go over like the layout and stuff?
Sorry, I was muted. This is mainly an open space to just talk about anything that the pandemic has imposed on us. But we have a couple of questions that you guys have access to that we can kind of use to guide the conversation. But really, there's no limit, and we can just talk about as much as we want to get anything off our chest, and we'll be happy to listen. So I guess we can start off with just a little bit of an icebreaker that Millie came up with.
Oh, I forgot to do the icebreaker because we had so much to cover.
It's good. It's good.
Do you want to go into the current like COVID-19 information? Kind of like starting off with that.
Yeah. So I guess this kind of ties into like where the whole perception of society on Asian Americans and because of the virus. And so there has been a lot of like talk about where it came from, especially because the outbreak was originated from China. And you can imagine the kind of like xenophobic thoughts that a lot of people can have on this. And so we kind of just wanted to talk about a little bit of the facts about it. And we know that that there's genetic testing going on right now, like in terms of the genetics of the disease and the virus, and they're like tracing it back to see where it's coming from, what kind of strains are out there. But we do know that it's related to other coronaviruses, as coronavirus is a family and not necessarily the disease itself. The strain that we're facing right now is specifically COVID-19, or the species of it, and there are multiple strains of COVID-19 as well that they're finding out. So things like MERS, SARS, this is more commonly associated with SARS, and you might see that this is also the COVID-19 virus is also SARS-2 or SARS-CoV-2 for coronavirus. And so they don't have a legitimate, like I was actually reading through some resources this morning to see if I could find anything updated, but they still, it looks like that they're testing to see where it came from, like specifically. But they do know that it's probably zoonotic and it's not like manufactured in a lab, and you know all those conspiracy theories are like popular. But it looks like a lot of papers are saying that like, yeah, it's definitely like zoonotic and it came from nature and not man-made in China as a weapon or something. So did anyone have, maybe we can start off with like any responses to that? Has anyone experienced like other people imposing that it's a weapon, and you know the Chinese government is this, and our government was working with them or not working with them, and this is a weird conspiracy war? And because I know my grandma has her thoughts, so if anyone wants to share their family's thoughts or anything else like that, please raise your hand, say something in the chat. So just like maybe even like 20 minutes ago, my grandma was like, oh, you know, the virus was manufactured by the Chinese lab to like reduce their population size or whatever. And you know, like those kind of things are not only things that like white people say, like we can like those kind of stereotypes and like theories against or over generalizations towards like Eastern people like also apply to like us and our families. I don't know if anyone else has been experiencing that, but and we can only like do so much to talk about, or you know, to convince them. But Gigi, do you have something to say? You're muted.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's so funny that you brought that up, because my parents were saying the same exact thing like an hour ago, that it's a manufactured in the lab. And like I've been hearing those conspiracies this whole time, you know, like the Wuhan lab, the virology lab, Institute of Virology, has been like studying coronavirus for so many years, and it's manufactured. So yeah, you know, it just goes to show that you should probably do your own research as well. Like really look into this stuff because just people will believe anything regarding something as big as this. Because the fact is, like, even though we can be sure to say that it's zoonotic virus, there are a lot of things that will come out, and there are a lot of things that we aren't extremely sure about it either. So yeah, I thought that was so funny that your grandma was saying that when my parents were saying that an hour ago.
Sophia?
I always see everyone on like social media being like, oh, if the Chinese just like didn't eat bats, like this thing would not have happened. And I just see like that one especially, but I just see like a lot of like these weirdos are like experimenting with what they could eat, and like it's like destroying the world. And just like the stigma of Asians in general eating exotic foods and like testing everything. So that's one thing that I see like a lot everywhere.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I was hoping someone would say something about it. And that's something that I see on social media all the time, like you were saying. And it's just like you can't like judge other cultures for cultural differences just because you think what our culture is the norm, and we should be open-minded about like different cultures and what they eat and what their kind of cuisine and delicacies are. Even Filipinos have their own delicacies that some people might think are weird. Balut. Anyone else? Millie.
Oops, sorry, I forgot to mute myself. I just keep hearing this conspiracy theory, and we talked about it in one of my nursing classes. For some reason, there was like a rumor going around, and it's like widely believed now for some reason that 5G causes coronavirus. I wasn't sure if this was something that stemmed from Asia. Maybe like Asia had 5G first or something, but it's been debunked like over and over again, and I just don't really know where the origin of that myth came from. If anybody knows, like, let me know. But I thought that was a really crazy thing for people to come up with. And I remember I heard something that just kind of like stuck with me since this whole thing happened, especially when all the hate crimes began and everything, was that I forgot where I saw it, but it's probably Facebook or something. Somebody said mass hysteria will spread faster than any virus can. So I feel like that's something that just like sticks in my head whenever I see like all these crazy things that are happening with people. They'll believe anything, like, because at like this point with like the world changing and everything like this, it's easy to get wrapped up in like things that may not be true, or things that like sound like, I don't want to say crazy, but things that just sound so outlandish that they're trying to find something to blame it on. Going off of that, should we move on to like where the virus stands right now?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if anyone else has read up on it, but it seems like where the curve is headed is kind of variable right now, especially because now that all 50 states now have the virus, and only there's a couple of states that still aren't on safer at home practices yet, but they are thinking that maybe the curve isn't we're not gonna reach the peak too soon, maybe not just yet, but if we were to have everyone safer at home and then have the peak sooner, so then the amount of deaths fall faster. A lot of experts are talking about a second wave, and historically, because like pandemics are historically, they historically happen in waves too, that some public health experts were seeing. So it's interesting because if you think about it, I guess like if you lift the quarantine, then like everyone will be like, oh, it's time to come out, it's time to go out, let's go. And then the spread will happen again. So until like there's a vaccine for it, which like takes a long time and takes like maybe like a couple, like a year or two, even maybe like a year and a half is like the average time. Yeah, so it's not over yet. So I wouldn't be excited to crawl out in May or something. I don't know if anybody else has seen something interesting. Christian, did you have something?
I did. Well, it was like more of a question based because I saw this recent Facebook post that said that universities are thinking about still having online classes for the first semester of next year. And like, I guess like in terms like of that and just in general, like over the summer and stuff, like how long do you guys think this social distancing is going to last? And when like will people be able to, like in America, should be able to like go out like with like 10 plus people at a time?
I was just reading this article that I think came out today where they were saying some researchers at Harvard are like predicting that this is going to carry till 2022 because since we're still unclear about if it's seasonal and like how well like immune systems can like hold up to it, like for people that got it and then recovered, they're thinking of it being till 2022 because there's still like a lot of unknown, and then obviously a vaccine takes so long to do. And then I also read that Boston is like already the first university to like consider making everything online until 2022.
Did you have something, Millie?
Yeah, it was, I think maybe last week, I started seeing these articles popping up that, I'm just reading the message from Raphie, possible reference an article or something. If you guys have articles that you want to share, please drop it in the chat. I'm going to try to find the one that I'm talking about right now, but I do remember there was a lot of research going on about how instead of flattening one curve, we would do periods of intermittent lockdowns and everything so that everybody would be on lockdown right now. And then we would be out for like a month or so that people can kind of like go back to work. A lot of people are out of jobs right now, so they would be able to go back to work, save money earlier, and then they would have to go on lockdown again. And so instead of like one large curve, we would basically be which is basically us being in lockdown until a vaccine gets developed. It would be periods of lockdowns in which everybody would build up herd immunity. So I feel like that would kind of be more plausible than everybody staying in one large lockdown. Because even with the large lockdowns that were happening in Wuhan and China, now that those have been like gradually lifted, the cases are again spiking. So it is possible that they are going on lockdown again. So I feel like doing periods of lockdown sound more plausible from the research that I was reading. But again, that would probably go on for another couple of years. But I'm going to try to find that article and get here.
Cool. So Gracie's going to talk next, and I'll take Gracie and Jocelyn, and then I think I kind of want to steer us back to the social aspect of this. I don't want it to turn into much of a public health talk, which we can have another Zoom call for maybe, but yeah. Okay, so Gracie and then Jocelyn.
Sorry, I just wanted to quick say that the Boston University thing was them just saying that they like have a plan if Boston or like all of the US is still social distancing in the fall, which I think like a lot of other schools would probably say the same thing, that like there is a plan, but it's still uncertain what's happening there. Just because I have a friend that goes to Boston University and was kind of like, Forbes, why did you publish this whole thing that made it seem like we're for sure closing all this stuff? And then also just about it seems like we're going to have lots of like waves and like sections of social distancing for a while, especially with like who's in power in our government and stuff. I think we're gonna probably like kickstart the economy a little too soon, and then like another peak will happen and like that type of thing. So it just seems like that's probably more of our pattern than like us being in lockdown for like 2 years or something. It's going to be like every several months.
Yeah, so I've been like talking with some friends who like live like abroad. So like my best friend has been living in Korea during this whole thing, and she was saying how like in January is like when the government kind of started like taking action, and then it's not until like I think next week that they're gonna start kind of lifting it, but like they didn't necessarily like shut everything down. Like she was still able to go to work and everything. But I think it's what makes it a little bit different with I think America is like in like as being like Asian American, sometimes we're more like collective already, and so we already take precautions already like in mind, like you know for the benefit of the community. But I feel like maybe in America when like when there is like that freedom of like you guys can start going out a little bit, I feel like people are just gonna go like woo, you know, just be like I'm free and then go crazy again. I'd like thinking that we can always just jump right back to normal. It's over. But I think that that there's gonna have like prolonged consequences. Because like my friend said in Korea, even though that like they're starting to get back into things, and even with my friend in Japan, like everybody would still be wearing masks, and like even when people were in line, but like had to go to work, like then their grandparents would be the ones buying masks for them, the people who still had to go to school and stuff. So they were always like had that in the back of their mind of like being precautious. But I feel like that's something that might need to be, I don't know, like it's something that's also like cultural that might have to change within America. It's like that is kind of hard because it's ingrained in our culture to be more individualistic. So yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the rundown. Yeah, a lot of useful articles in the chat. A lot of things in terms of public health. So thank you. I think now we kind of are gonna, if it's okay, just go straight into the purpose of the talk, which is like the social aspects of this, like what this means for Asian Americans. And I kind of want to bring everyone to the chat and open the picture that I sent. If you can't see it, let me know. But a couple weeks back, maybe even last week, I don't remember, but there was a racial bias incident that happened at the University of Wisconsin, Madison. And as you can see on the sidewalk, they chalked like racist remarks. It's from China, hashtag the Chinese virus, and F the Chinese government. And I just wanted to get people's initial reactions just to see maybe where those reactions are lying, and maybe someone who hasn't talked yet, if they want to speak up in terms of like how they're reacting to this. Say something in the chat, raise your hand. Anyone? Okay, maybe now if you've already talked, what your like initial reactions are. Like what's the first thing that comes into your head? I know like the first thing that came to my head, well, I mean, we had a couple things happen this year at the University of Wisconsin. So like, I was almost waiting for it, you know, I opened it and I was like, of course, like we knew, like, and I was like really disappointed. I was kind of angry about it. I know Gracie went to the town hall, so props for taking action. If anyone else wants to speak to what their initial reactions are to the picture in the chat.
Do you mind giving more context? Sorry.
Sure. In terms of like how it happened, of the event itself.
Maybe of the event, or like why the location of those things that popped up was kind of important
Yeah, I guess so. It's those locations for those of you not from UW-Madison are like on campus and probably the most central to where like all students will pass by and see. I mean, the city is quarantined, but if people are walking, so the top picture is on like a popular street where like there are restaurants where people are probably going to the convenience stores, getting food, and and then so the bottom picture is not a block further than that, where like the heart of the campus is, which is the hill in the background. So a lot of people are going to see this, especially it's closer to the city part of it, of Madison, and not necessarily towards the dorms where it's empty. So I feel like this was very intentional in where they wrote this and what the message implies too. So Sophia, were you going to say something?
One of the things that a lot of people have been saying, like in terms of like the sidewalk chalk, was, I mean, I guess it's not necessarily towards that particular incident, but it's more towards like, oh, like we called the Spanish flu, so like why can't we call this the Chinese virus? And it's just like the sense that people are like ignorant and like don't have like enough intelligence to like, I guess, educate themselves, or just miss that in history class. I don't know. But for me, it was more of just like, you know, like people literally walk by. Like there's still a bunch of international kids like on this campus. And instead of it like breaking or like getting me mad, it like more broke my heart, because it was like, you know, we need everyone to like social distance, and like, you know, we're like all relying on each other to like get this back on track. And it just like sucks that it's like more of like people turning against each other for like no reason at all. So it's just like, it was more heartbreaking rather than like me being upset at the world.
Thanks, Via. Gracie?
Yeah, kind of a similar thing to what Sophia was saying. Just like Matt said, I went to a town hall about how like the university was reacting, and kind of how I left that town hall was just feeling like we have a lot of good people that care and that are like trying to deal with bias incidents and everything, but it's also a lack of like in just generalized culture and like of, I guess, the student body to some extent, of like not fully caring and just
I think Gracie is
and soul feeling. It's
Gracie,
just like,
can you repeat that last part?
yes.
Sorry.
What when was I cut off?
You were talking about like
You were just leaving town hall.
the feeling of leaving it.
Yeah. So when I like left the town hall, I felt like we had a lot of good administrators and people. Was it doing it again? Are we good?
Okay, maybe she's having some issues. Maybe we can wait a little bit for her.
I think I'm frozen.
Gracie?
You're not frozen anymore, Gracie.
Okay, we're back. Sorry about that, everyone. I was just trying to say that, like, I think there's a lot of people in power that even care about it, especially on, like, universities, but it just seems like there's a lack from, like, students and, like, our greater culture and just, like, society to care about more than just yourselves. And, like, we're such an individualistic culture that with this social distancing thing, it's like, okay, well, I'm healthy, so I can go hang out with my friend. And it's like, that's so unfair to all these other people and just thinking about like the greater impact. And I feel like the pandemic is shining light on this, especially since people are making it like a time to be racist.
Anyone else have any thoughts on the incident?
There's a question in the chat.
Oh,
It's a question from Diana. I don't want to say the song, Balitaan. Especially for international students who have stayed on campuses, do you feel like there's more fear from the Asian or Asian American community on your campuses about going outside?
Jocelyn, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, so I'm taking like sociology and it's about ethnic movements, and my professor like told the entire lecture, which was like basically I was like one of the only Asians in the whole lecture, right? And he was saying like to the class like, yo, watch how like COVID-19 they're gonna turn it into a race thing. And he's like, as a white male, he was saying that too, which I really appreciated. And like having friends on campus who are like Asian American or international, like we definitely felt that on campus. Like my friend got eggs thrown at her for being like thinking that like people thought that she was Chinese, but she's actually Hmong. And like when I was like sick with like the flu, I was scared to like cough in class. Even like after I was like over, but just like, you know, I was like, but yeah, because I was like scared that people are gonna like look at me. And like there were like a lot of incidences like that on campus, and like people were like grocery shopping and like people would go up to them and be like, go back to where you come from. And so yeah, that's our campus sometimes.
Thanks for sharing, Jocelyn. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. It's
sure.
Pretty much, I was in like a similar situation where I had like a brief little bout of the flu right before like things started closing down back in March. I mean, like either way, if I tried like, if I didn't wear a mask, wasn't visibly like out, like showing that I had a mask on or was sick, barring except for like coughing and sneezing, like I'd still get like, looks thinking that like I had it or something. And if I did wear a mask to try and like keep other people from like getting sick, then of course people would still give me like looks that way anyway. Like either way, it's like there's no way around it.
Right. Thanks, Jacob. Very valid. Out of curiosity, where was this? Where are you from?
IUPOI in Indianapolis.
Got it. Thanks.
Welcome.
Anyone else? Anything that respond to other people? Their own responses? Marian?
Yeah, it's just kind of frustrating because, like, what does this even do for, like, the community? Like, writing that on the sidewalk or just, like, all these crimes that are happening. Like, you're just making, like, everything more chaotic and, like, you're just spreading fear. And it's, like, what good is that doing in, like, a pandemic? Like, it's honestly just, like, useless to even, like, do that. And so I just think it's, like, super frustrating to just, like, see that because it doesn't even benefit anyone but yourself. Again, like how it's like a common trend that it's just like satisfying, like, oh yeah, like I just got my anger out just by like spreading hate and all of that. But yeah.
Cool. Any last responses before we go into the next question that someone has asked? I just wanted to say, I almost feel like my mom is kind of feeling victim to that. She is like making us like wear masks wherever we go for a quick grocery shop. Well, I mean, now it's probably smart, but like way before the curve was like serious, and she was really concerned for my well-being. And like, you couldn't help but just like think like, did something happen to my mom? Like, did she face something like this? Like, did someone approach her? And it sucks because it's like, like how would you even, like, how do you even respond to that? Like, it's just so heated. It's just such a tense stereotype and just to be like alienated just because of like being Asian is, this is not the first time we've experienced alienation and racism, but like in a time like this, there are more people turning their heads when you cough. It's scarier to go out in public. You're afraid you're gonna get attacked socially, maybe verbally attacked, like getting weird looks. I feel like it shouldn't bother you in a store when you get weird looks, but it like really does. It like for some reason, not for some reason, obviously, but like, yeah, it's tough. So Kevin asked, sorry, any last things? Cool. Kevin asks if anyone here has personally experienced any type of microaggression or xenophobia, and like what was your initial reaction? Like, probably Kevin, if I'm asking this right, like how did you respond in the moment?
Yeah. So recently I experienced some type of microaggression, I guess you could call it. But so I was like coming home on my way from Iowa State, and I just stopped at the world's largest truck stop in Iowa. And I went to the bathroom, and there was this white guy who was like using a sink, and there were like 3 sinks. And I moved right next to him to use a sink next to him, and he gave me this weird look. He like looked to my left. He was like that. He gave me a weird stare, and he moved to the other sink. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, wow, that really just happened. And like I was already on my way out. I wanted to do something about it, but I was already on my way out. Like I told my friends in the car because I drove them home and stuff, and like they got really mad, and what is it? They're like, oh, you should have done something about it and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I know, and I was, but then I was like already on my way out. But yeah, that was my recent experience from other people.
Thanks for sharing, Kev.
Yeah.
Anyone have any like responses to that?
There's a comment from Edmund Booney.
Mm-hmm.
They say, to me, it's crazy how a lot of Asian Americans are affected by racism, and yet a lot of people in our community are the ones on the front line, are the frontline workers. So I'm sure all of us, or most of us, as Filipino Americans, know someone who is a doctor, a nurse, something in the medical or health field, and they have to go to work. So that's Edmund's comment. If anyone has a reaction to that.
I wanted to add to that I remember hearing that the reason why there are so many Filipino and Filipino American nurses and members of the healthcare like workforce was because there was a huge call for healthcare workers during the HIV and the AIDS epidemic. And so that's why there's a large, and then so obviously like Filipinos and Filipino Americans immigrated from the Philippines to work here in the US during that epidemic. And now I remember thinking like, it's just crazy that now this next pandemic is happening and that they were the ones who came to kind of, support the workforce and everything. And now they're facing the backlash of it because of xenophobia, which I think just, they're only trying to help, and healthcare workers are in a really dangerous space right now too.
Any more responses to Edmund's comment? Yeah, actually, my mom's a nurse too. And she's on the phone a lot now because of reaching out to family in the Philippines where maybe their medical technology is not as advanced, especially in provinces. The kind of the medical protocols that they have there are different than what they have here. And so, at the same time, she's like, when she's not working, she's calling our fam. And when she's, not calling our fam, she's working. So I just like, is anyone else having that kind of concern, that kind of contact with their family in the Philippines or anywhere else in the world that may not have the kind of, medical treatment that the United States does? Marian?
Sorry, I always forget that I'm muted. But sorry, this doesn't have to do with like someone outside the country or anything. But I'm in St. Louis right now, but I'm from around Chicago. But I can't go home because my mom's like a nurse, and so at her hospital, the ICU already got full, and so her wing's like the next one to get COVID patients, and so it's just kind of weird because like we were on the phone the other day, and she was asking me like when I'm gonna come home, and I was like, I can't go home because you're home, and like, it's so weird because I just feel like people aren't taking it that seriously. And so going back to our conversation with like, are we going to have like slow waves of it? Or like, is it going to be like a peak? And like people who aren't social distancing and because like they believe like, you can believe whatever you want, but like if you want to believe that like we can get it faster and then like over with, like, okay, there's like that mindset. But then also I feel like people aren't thinking about the people who have to face those consequences, like at the hospitals, they have to face like hospitals being overcrowded. But obviously it doesn't affect us because we're just getting over the waves faster. And so I think it's just like a selfish mindset to have that, just because like I think about my mom like working at the hospital and she doesn't like deserve that just because people like say it doesn't affect me. They can put that work on her after she like immigrated to America and everything, like being a nurse. And I just have so many frustrations with that.
To kind of go off of that, if I can.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So it was brought up earlier about like the whole sort of mindset here in America that it's a more individualistic, and it kind of is born out of this sort of like concept that it's America, you got to do things on your own, you got to forge your own path and all that, and like anyone else, just be damned. So when people are just going out, doing whatever they want to, it's like, hey, I'm doing this for myself. I don't care what happens like other people. It's just like, it's outside of their concern if it doesn't have anything to do with them, just like you mentioned.
Thanks, Jacob. Any responses to the cultural difference that we're seeing in terms of the values of the different areas of the world that we're seeing?
I think that just everyone needs perspective of everyone's view, because obviously one doesn't completely understand another individual, because obviously you're the only one who can understand yourself fully. So I would say just be open-minded and stuff, and try to understand other people's views as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely important. So JJ, did you have anything to add, like a topic that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, hey, I just came in and I didn't like.
Sure, no big
things that we're talking about. But one of the things that I guess I'm like struggling with during this pandemic is, well, my parents are nurses, and I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, my mom was like really struggling with all of the deaths that she was experiencing all on the front lines. And I don't know if you guys have parents with like in the medical field, and like how are you helping them deal with all of the things that they're dealing with, and like how are you being there for them, and like I don't know where I'm going with the question, but like, yeah.
Sorry, JJ, can you reword the question or comment you'd like people to respond to?
Yeah. So I guess just for people whose parents or like maybe aunts and uncles or friends are like in the medical field, like what are you guys doing to like be there for them, like emotionally or like I don't think physically is a good choice of words, but just how are you being there for the people that are in the front lines for us?
Whoever responds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start with a comment from Diana in the chat. They said, dang, my mom is an ICU nurse too. I want to go home and visit, but I have to think about the risk. Luckily, I have a place to stay otherwise, but it makes me think about other families who don't have separate spaces to isolate in. So that's just a comment that they left earlier. But to respond to that, of how do we support the people, our family members, especially working on the front line. I have an aunt who's a nurse, and I have a lot of friends who are nurses, or friends whose parents and family are nurses. Like I said, like I'm sure everyone else here does too, and a lot of us are studying to be nurses, etc. So it's just offering those words. I think offering those words of support, because we can't show them physical support at this time. Do what you can. It's probably hard, and we can probably talk about other ways that we even take care of our own mental health in these times. But yeah, just offering your words of support.
Thanks, Raphie. Kyle, you had a comment to Kevin's scenario. Was it the scenario that he previously mentioned? Or was it?
Yeah, it was like the scenario about him being in the bathroom and like.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So before we get to that, sorry, can we? Has anyone else have any like comments on our relatives or special people to us who are in the front lines in the medical field before we wrap up that conversation and head to Kyle? Christian, you have something?
Yeah, I guess that's a fun fact. But like, since both my parents are nurses and they both they're usually like out of the house now. They're like working extra shifts. It got me into the interest of like cooking more, and especially like for them too. It's like I absolutely suck at cooking, but ever since they were like out of the house more and I spent more time to cook, I usually like try to prep food, especially for them when they come back home, and that's what I'm actually doing right now too. So I guess like doing little things that they can't do when they're at home, and actually like taking the time to do things that they would usually do if they weren't working so much, and really just doing things for them is, yeah.
That's really sweet, Christian.
Thanks, BB.
Anything else to add in the whole loved ones and healthcare topic? We can come back to it.
Can I add really quick?
Sure, Nye, go ahead.
Okay. So my situation's kind of interesting. So I actually did test positive for COVID on March 24. And my initial reaction to that was like, I'm so scared to tell my parents that I tested positive, because both of them work at the hospital. My mom works more in like the food management. My dad is like, I'm a case manager for the nurses. But I don't know why, but I was so scared to tell them, just because like I knew that like my parents both needed to work, and like we like have like our own like financial things going on. So I was like, oh my gosh, if I tell them, then like they have to take time off. That means they're not working. And like this is before like all of the like hospitals like put in place like paid time off. So I was just like, oh my gosh, it was like so nerve-wracking for me. But I was like, I have to tell them, because this affects them. And like, thankfully I don't live with them, but I do live near them. So like they are like close enough, but it was like really scary for me. I don't know why, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm getting in trouble. Like they're going to like be mad at me for getting the virus or something like that. But like, I wanted to keep them safe. And then like, thankfully all of these paid times offs like were happening at the hospital. So they were okay with it once I finally told them, because I was nervous. I didn't tell them for a few days. But that's kind of just like what happened with me. But like, we're all taking our precautions now. Like, I think the biggest thing is like just being able to open up to them and just talk to them, just like check in on them, like, how are you? Like, how are you, like, really? Like, what's, like, where's your heart at right now? Like, what can I do for you? Like, I can be a listening ear. Like, I can update them about, like, the good that's going on. So just things like that.
Thanks, Nai. Yeah, I also find that, like, just letting them talk and vent is sometimes all they need. Great. So Raphie was saying that she has seen efforts of folks donating PPE to, like, healthcare centers and hospitals and treatment centers, and yeah, I've also been seeing that. So thanks to whoever's making them out there. If you know someone, thank them. Yeah, cool. I think we're good with the front lines talk. Kyle, did you want to add your comments to the racial bias incident that Kevin had?
Oh yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add, because I'm just gonna say that this type of racism doesn't, like, only occur, like, on the outside, like from outside people or strangers. It can also occur, like, in your friend group as well. Like, I have a friend who actually, like, I talked to, and I accidentally forgot to respond to his message, and he's like, "Oh, so your people caused the virus, and now you can't respond." I'm like, "What? It doesn't make any sense. You're just being ignorant." And, like, I responded by, like, saying, like, "Dude, that's so ignorant. You can't say that." Like, I'm first of all, I'm not even Chinese. I mean, like, and second of all, you're just assuming because I'm just Asian. So, like, I'm just saying, like, this doesn't just occur on, like, the outside world. Like, it can occur in your friend group as well.
Any reactions to that response?
Yeah, I actually have an experience at college, actually. So I was in my friend's dorm, and I was on a FaceTime call with the whole friend group, and I accidentally, like, laughed really loud because I heard like a really funny joke. Then my friend, his name, I'm not gonna name anyone actually. He was like, "Kevin, why are you laughing so loud?" He turned away, turned to his other friends, and he was like, "God, I hate Asians. Is that what Asians are like always?" And, like, I didn't know he said that until his friends, or my friends as well, told me. I actually went up to him afterwards and talked about it with him and stuff. Yeah, and he apologized. But yeah, that's one experience I also had.
Thanks for sharing, guys. That's I think we're starting to bring up the topic of microaggressions now, which is too common to us. So if anyone has any responses to the microaggressions that they've faced, or any of their own, especially in relation to this pandemic, go ahead and raise your hand, put something in the chat. We're coming up on our last several minutes here, so any last thoughts on that? Fia?
I guess, like, in my college career, when like before the whole pandemic, this is kind of veered towards masks and how they became such like a, like, oh, why do they wear masks? Like, that's so weird. That's so, like, not American. And then how it became kind of like a lifeline for a lot of people. And I know, like, being in college, like, I would get asked a lot, like, why do Asians wear masks? And then how it would be like, oh, that's so dumb, or like they're doing it for no reason. And then now it's like everyone sees the reason. And then it's turned into now that, like, when they need masks, it's like, oh, Asians are wearing it because they're sick. and like they shouldn't even be outside. Like, why are they wearing it? So I guess this is more towards like how masks became like an Asian thing and then turned into an American thing, or like not, like, I don't know, I guess it turned into like a bad sign for Asians in a way. I don't know how to like word that, but like that's just like how I saw it flip like in my 2 years of college.
I definitely agree that like there's like a stigma against like Asians wearing masks. Especially now. I remember seeing, I think it was like a video of people who like were not minorities wearing masks, and then they went to attack people who were Asian that were wearing masks. And then they were saying all these things like, oh, like, why are you wearing that, stuff like that. And then, you know, the Asians, like, obviously we feel the need to protect ourselves. I actually went to a rave in like late February, and I ended up wearing a mask there, just because I usually wear masks to go shows. And then I actually got yelled at by security to take it off. But then when I was looking around, like there were people who were not minorities who were wearing masks and they weren't told to take it off. So I remember just being like so dumbfounded by that. And I didn't know why at first, but it was late February. So it was when like all the news that coronavirus was like coming up, especially from China. And then that was when like the xenophobic attacks started. So I think that was like my first encounter with experiencing something like that.
Right. Cool. Any last minute responses on that? We have one more topic that Kayla would like to bring up. And she's wondering if any of you guys have been on social media and have seen any tension between within the minority communities. So whether it's between the Black community and the Asian community, or between the Latina, Hispanic, Latinx, Hispanic, you know, that within the minority pool, if you guys have seen anything like that, especially with the pandemic, including like a lot of Asian critique against like Asian Americans. So any responses on that?
I can speak a little bit on that. Early on, when the pandemic was when the shelter-in-place orders kind of started popping up in more states, and we started seeing more violence against Asian Americans in regards to the coronavirus, there was a lot of criticism towards Asian Americans because historically Asian Americans in general, and I'm not saying Asian Americans haven't done this or haven't stood up for our people, but Asian Americans in general have not shown up for any other communities on a wide scale. So if we're thinking of like Ebola way back, a lot of Black communities, particularly in other countries, I can't say I know to what extent it was in the United States, but Africans in other countries were extremely discriminated against. And I mean, African or Black folks in the United States were obviously upset by this, though they aren't, from those countries. They're still, as a society, we still see them as like people of the same color or of the same background as connected, unfortunately. And so the criticisms towards Asian Americans were that we weren't showing up for them at that time, so why should anyone show up for us now? And that I feel at times is a valid criticism because that's true. We have Asian Americans haven't been showing up for Black and brown people. Not to say that there haven't been movements in the past. Like there are so many Asian American led movements that are so powerful, but to say that Asian Americans have been kind of leading movements in support of other groups, particularly like in the Black community or Latinx community, I would say those criticisms are valid. But, and also to the point that like it really takes, or to the point where Matt was saying earlier, like this racism and these microaggressions didn't start here with coronavirus. Like we've been microaggressed for a long time. Racism has affected the Asian community forever, at least in the United States, from what I can say. And so it's kind of, at times it can be frustrating to think that it takes an event like the coronavirus to make Asian Americans stand up and defend ourselves.
So there's a comment from Kayla, and she just was talking about this discussion could be broadly anti-Blackness, as well as rifts in minority communities during COVID. And there's a comment also from Abby Mendoza from Mafa Board, and she said, I have seen people on social media comment on how dumb it is to eat bats in the same way that they criticize Eastern cultures for eating bats. I wanted to know what people thought of such comments. Sure. Thanks, Kayla. Any responses to Kayla's comment about rifts in the minority community? Gracie?
Yeah, mine is really quick, but just kind of how, like, I feel like the Asian American community, since it has been labeled as like the model minority and all that stuff, we've become very comfortable in being kind of just like comfortable in our position and don't want to like for lack of a better phrase, like stir the pot by helping out other minority communities and just kind of going off of what Kayla said of like, we can't solve this on our own. And hopefully other communities will be willing to step up for us right now, but also just like, we need to stop being unwilling to step up for them.
Maddie?
Yeah, I was just gonna hop on to like Gracie's point, like the origins of the model minority is made from white America during the time when more immigrants were coming back and they removed most like immigration laws, like 1960s is when it started happening. And imagine having all of these immigrants come and having this mindset that they were this like minority that will be used as like a racial wedge between other minorities. And it's kind of hard to break that mindset since it was pretty much America's way to create division within the different minority groups. And I find it even hard now to kind of like explain to my parents like their negative ways of thinking, especially when it comes to what's happening in lower income communities, especially during COVID-19. I was trying to even like explain how horrible it was for what Milwaukee did during the voting polls and making like lower income communities all come in to go vote at only 5 polling locations, and just saying that like it's not that they didn't like they could still vote, yes, but they didn't have the opportunity to vote in a safe way or given more options to do an absentee ballot, because what's going on is that people don't see the importance of like standing together and being standing up for all the communities and just seeing like they're healthy, they don't have to deal with it type of thing. And it's hard to break those mindsets during that time. And I think it's a good topic to bring up because not as many people are covering like what's going on in communities that can't afford to like really social distance during this time or speak for themselves.
Thank you for that comment. Does anybody have anything that they want to add onto Abby's comment about the kind of like parallels that we see with people commenting on like difference on how people say it's dumb to eat bats in the same way that they criticize Eastern cultures saying it's dumb to eat dogs? Or any further comments on kind of like all the microaggressions and xenophobia we've seen, just kind of like how life is changing with living through this pandemic right now?
Speaking of food, sorry.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Speaking of food, as someone that like is really into like learning about foods and the importance of food and just telling our history, it's annoying to hear people blame certain food aspects in different cultures because like most of the foods that we have now or know now were brought in by immigrants, and they all have their own stories. And like China is one of the first like immigrants here that have made their like diet into an Americanized diet to be considered like orange chicken on everyone's plates and such. And trying to explain to someone that like this isn't your like American version or this is just more like Eastern culture, like they don't understand that this is normal. And it's just bothering hearing that over and over again, especially from people within our own community. Like, why would you even eat dog or bat soup? And when it comes down to it, it's probably the way they weren't given the right instructions on how to cook it. If it was really from like bats, or like they weren't given the knowledge of like maybe they shouldn't have eaten this because of this or that. And I think overall it's just like lack of knowledge.
Yeah, with kind of go off of that a little bit is that, you know, when like a lot of cuisines come here to America, some like a lot of them like thrive if they're deemed to be like, you know, marketable here. If it appeals to some sort of like trend or anything, then it gets adopted. But if it doesn't appeal, it gets like, you know, people tear it down and get really critical about it. And the whole deal with like commenting about how dumb it is to eat bats and the parallels to the criticisms about dog eating and stuff is pretty much, it just perpetuates this sort of stereotype of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders being strange, unusual compared to like the Western lifestyle. And, you know, of course, that sort of mindset is used to dehumanize these people. So it's just further perpetuating that sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of makes you think like who are the ones who are deciding what's worthy of attention in our country. Not the people who make it, it's the people who basically are in power. Just throwing in a little thing about power structures there. But you know, it's not us, the Asian Americans or the brown people, black people in the United States who are saying like our stuff is worthy of your consumption, they are telling us that our things are worthy of their consumption. It makes you just kind of think about like, where do we stand and what can we do about it?
Yeah. And oftentimes, even when they do decide to adopt that sort of stuff, they oftentimes just take it from the people who made it, like stealing it, and not even giving any sort of like credit or.
Yeah, it's on their terms, right?
Yeah. Like none of the benefits go to like the community or anything like that. It goes to them.
It reminds me of the sound on TikTok that's like, I love all cultures.
I know exactly what sound you're talking about. Okay. Does anybody else have any final comments that they want to add before we kind of wrap up this roundtable?
Sorry, I feel like oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you can go first. Ladies first, sorry.
Oh no, it's kind of an ending thing.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll go first then. I just want to add that truth is like it's kind of sad that racism is going to be like an ongoing thing. It's going to be going on forever. Like I don't think racism is actually going to be put to an end anytime soon. And all we can do to act against that is to stay strong, stand up for yourselves. Like other people said, like support other communities, like act with each other as well, support each other. And one other thing is that like the world is like based off perception. So like people perceive you as, if you're like Asian, you automatically have the virus, but you can counteract against that and stand up for yourself and fight against that as well. Not saying you can't do anything against like all this racism going on right now, but you can fight against that.
If I could add to Kyle's comment, I think that's the part that I personally struggle with the most is the response to it. I've taken all these classes to identify it and to like conceptualize it and term it and like, but very few times have I known like what to say, how to respond back in a way that's effective and the way that they'll digest it. It's like we're fighting this war that we're always going to lose. And I guess what Kyle was saying was like, stay strong, stay connected, rely on each other. And I really appreciate that you guys opened up today and I was really receptive. And I hope that, and I thank everybody for their respect. And I just want everyone to know if they need someone to reach out to, if something happens, I'm always here, DM me, message me, whatever.
Hey, thank you guys for such a great discussion. Before we move on to like announcements and everything, I know Raphie, you have something that you wanted to share, like announcement wise.
Yeah. So basically, I am part of this organization, or it's like a student youth coalition called Kabataan Alliance. And we just kind of advocate and fight for the rights of Filipino Americans in the United States and in the Philippines. And I actually went on a trip to the Philippines with them this past summer. But what we've been doing recently in light of the COVID situation is actually compiling resources for people in response to the COVID situation, particularly in the Midwest. So I'm helping out with the Midwest kind of region. And so it includes stuff all about unemployment, different types of mental health and healthcare resources that you might have access to. And in addition to that, we're doing a survey to just assess kind of what the needs are throughout the region. And the reason I think some of you know that I've been talking about this kind of nonstop for the past 2 weeks, but we have this survey and this resource list, but it's very concentrated information in Illinois and in Chicago. So we only really have resources from Chicago, and we really want to expand those so that we can really encompass and address the needs of people in the Midwest community, because we do have a different type of experience from those folks in the West Coast and those folks in the East Coast, and there's not really anything huge going on for the greater population of the Midwest. It's usually just concentrated in your small cities or like in Chicago. So I'm going to share the resource list in the group chat, and then I'm also going to share the survey. If you have time, please do fill it out. It's about a 5-minute survey, just asking about like how you and your family has been affected by the coronavirus situation. And then with that, Kabatan Alliance can really look for the different resources that are available for you, and hopefully we can keep in contact with you because you are asked to provide your email. So if you're comfortable with that, and please fill out with your PSAs, share it with your PSAs, share it with your family, fill it out with your family. I know Nai's done it, and I'm so thankful, Nai. Yeah, that's all.
Can you, do you want to post this on the event page too? Or in the Mafa members page too? You're muted.
I will do it.
Okay, sounds good. And then Mafa board, do you guys have announcements that you need to share as well? In regards to the rest of Sampaguita week?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, I'm lagging. So first, going to what Raphie said, we have Mafa's Got Talent going on this week for voting. So voting for like monetary donations will go to Kabatan Alliance to help with COVID relief. Oh, okay, I was like, oh, am I saying something wrong? But yeah, so we're helping out with that. So all monetary donations will be going to that. So we hope that if you do want to help out in some way, if you can, that you do look at the 12 competing participant or groups, and then you can support by voting and COVID relief. Also on the Mafa members page, we'll be posting a Sampaguita page. So basically the whole theme with this week is Sampaguita week, and we want to share the theme of blooming against adversity, especially with everything that's happening on around us in the world, like people that we know. We just want to be a supportive community with each other. So the word originates from the Tagalog of I promise. So we wanted to post that, something that you want to promise to the community, to yourself. If someone has helped you bloom against like adversity or grow in times, not just like now, but in general, especially like within your communities, you can post that there. Am I missing anything? Mafa?
I have an announcement in regards to Friday. What's going on Friday for the end of Sampaguita week. So in replacement of the variety show that we were supposed to have for MFAS, we are going to be live streaming with Ruby Ibarra and JR Aquino on Friday. So this will happen on Collective Hustle's Instagram, most likely. It can also probably might happen through Zoom in case a lot of people, want to join and like participate and everything like that. So keep an eye out for that. But in case it's on Instagram, Collective Hustle's Instagram is collective_hustle. They'll be doing Q&As with Ruby and JR. And then they'll also be giving away some gift cards during the live stream as well. So Ruby's live stream starts 7:30 p.m. CST, and then JR Aquino comes on at 8 p.m. CST. So make sure you tune in for those. Okay. Does anybody else have any like final comments that they want to add in regards to our discussion or anything going on for the rest of Sampaguita week?
Now, did you have something?
Does somebody have something?
I think we're good.
I think we're good. We're at $160 plus for Mafa's Got Talent for only just like 2 days. So keep sharing that. Yeah. Monetary donations count for twice as many votes. So if you guys want to beat out Rylan Santos right now,
Also, thank you, million, Matt, for co-facilitating this and doing it for this week.
Thank you guys.
And yeah, and thanks everyone
Yeah,
for
thanks.
coming and attending.
So actually, one more thing. There's a feedback form for the roundtable that I sent in the chat. It kind of is up there, so I'll send it again. And when the question that says like what roundtable topic, I think you have to select other and then write in this. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Have a good